Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It really is. And it's a pleasure to be part of all of this. I guess what I can do is sort of give you a briefing background of where I've come from and, ultimately why I've come to IVETA, which is an honor. Um, for many years in the role of an executive leadership position, I worked with international aid agencies all over the world. And then later I became a CTE educator and ultimately a workforce development and education policy specialist. So while I worked in different sector areas internationally, what I saw central to sustainability poverty abatement efforts was education, and more specifically academic and skills education. So at a policy level, I recognized how academic and skills educations are defined. Cross-sector development, sustainability, and poverty initiatives have a strong foundation to go on. So if you will, TVET conjoined with academic education is an effective and strong overall policy map. So ultimately, this is why I chose this field, because of that sort of global understanding of, okay, what is central to all policy initiatives and efforts and at scale. So, okay, thank you for that question. It's actually a very fun and sweet story, and it's a big motivator, actually. So many years ago, I found IVETA at a US CTE conference. And then afterwards, I looked for IVETA for many years, and then found it again and participated in the sessions at a national CTE conferences here. So in fact, it was that early interface with IVETA that guided and directed the following things, and quite sincerely. So it guided a master's in public policy with a specialization in collaborative governance, institutional design and learning, which I teach to master's students across sector areas. I wrote a paper on the effects of integrating TVET and academic education on national and global economies, and then subsequently completed a doctorate which focused on the effects of TVET policy leadership knowledge exchanges on development, sustainability, and poverty abatement initiatives in a globalized economy. So then and now, I have been riveted by the IVETA discussions and work that everyone has been doing, and how those issues were shared across regions and countries, including the United States. So because of my profession and academic background, I thought, well, perhaps I can offer something to the discussion, as well as increase my own craft and learning. I came from, at an executive level with international agencies. So what that means is that it brings the skills that were necessary to the role of the executive secretariat and the treasury. So those are administrative capacities, funding initiatives, program development, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that, it was to assure sustainable and effective fiscal management. In terms of IVETA itself, I'm really excited where this can go, because to begin with, I'm thrilled to be working with the caliber of this team, okay? What I find is IVETA has a very unique place in TVET in the education policy world, but before I agreed to serve in the roles that I do, I did what any good business strategist does, and I researched the heck out of the competition, because I wanted to know who was out there, who was in the marketplace, what were they doing, and then to find where IVETA fit. And what I found, in fact, was that IVETA is an umbrella group. It's not a niche player. And that I found to be very exciting. And so when I started looking at the products and services that IVETA offers to a much broader and the critical needs of national and regional partners, I thought, okay, this is important. This is actually important. So in addition to that, the team itself that are supporting the products and services come with senior expertise, not generalized expertise, senior expertise. So I recognized immediately that IVETA's future potential was hugely impactful. And so that's why I got to work right away. Okay, so thank you for the question, because actually, as I mentioned, I worked with international aid agencies all over the world, and that comes by way of, in fact, an understanding of the impact and relevance and importance of mentoring. That's actually how I started working internationally. I had my own companies and was highly successful, but I found myself, at the owner level, the CEO level. And I realized that, well, albeit that I was really successful, I never actually had a mentor. And there were times when I realized that would have been really helpful, and I could have approached something in a different way or been successful in a different way. But if you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I made a huge life and career change and decided that I wanted to be a mentor. If I could lend something to someone, access to information and knowledge that will be helpful for them to grow and to thrive and be successful, etc., which is core to all, I think, mentorship pieces. And so that's why I ended up with the career that I did. And so what we're doing, what IVETA is doing, follows straight in line with that. Because, like I say, you don't know what you don't know. And that doesn't mean you don't have capacity. You do, as long as you know something that will be helpful towards it. And I think that's one of the strengths and the power of IVETA. And as I was saying, what's fantastic about it is that all the folks that are participating and part of it are senior level. So they've been at this for a really long time, and they're really good, and they're very collaborative. So the knowledge exchanges that go back and forth only enhance the quality and the capacity to look at mentoring in completely different areas and contexts, etc., and assure that it's effective. It's not, that's critically important. So that's what I think. One of the things that I am certain about is that maintaining critical relationships to the actors that are changing every day the workforce. And one of those pieces that we're all talking about right now is how technology has shifted different kinds of roles and traditional roles, et cetera, because the industry is changing, et cetera. That how we do things and how we approach and what's the role of the human in the middle of all of that, and how do we strategically plan training to align with what the next steps are, and how do you even project what's coming, because there's this old statement, we're teaching for jobs that we don't even know exist yet. That's not true. We know perfectly well what we're doing, because we do have relationships with the business community and the public sector and all of that sort of stuff, because they're all tied. We will be moving forward productively and effectively as long as we're all aware that we are a collaborative group, we are conjoined, and we're working all together to develop all of us for the good of it. Yes, there's several. One is, I live in the state of Arizona, in southern Arizona, in the United States. And so that's what we call a high desert. And so it's very green, and it's the place that has those cactus with the arms that you see in many of the cartoons, the saguaro cactuses that are only here. However, it's a desert. And so I like to garden in the desert. And so I call it extreme gardening. Because it gets very, very hot, and then it also actually gets cold. So it's challenge, and it's also a lot of science, which I love. So it's working out things like that. And then also I am a licensed commercial scuba diver. Believe it or not, and everybody chuckles that I've spent most of my life with my body and my feet and my soul in the water, and here I'm living in the desert. But the objective of going as far as the commercial license was early in my career, my academic career. I was interested in archaeology. I'm the daughter of an archaeologist, so I did not grow up in parks. I did not grow up riding bicycles to neighbors' houses or any of that business. I grew up on an archaeological site cleaning shards. So with that, I was interested in underwater archaeology, specifically 7th century Greek ceramics. So that's why I ended up with a commercial scuba diving license. And then before I returned to the United States, I was asked to open up a nonprofit that was dealing with marine ecology, archaeology, and also medical research. And so I was spending 8 hours a day, every single day, happily underwater. Okay, so this teeny weeny little book is called The Stones to Ibarra, Ibarra. And it's a absolutely beautifully written story about an American husband and wife that go to this tiny town in Mexico and try and establish their lives. And it's this gorgeous story of their, meeting in with the community and working with the community it's just beautiful story. It's one of those that bring you into a quiet place, but when you're done, that's it, I'm changed forever. It's one of those. And then the other one is a book of poetry that I hold dear, and one poem in particular, maybe two, by C.P. Cavafy, and his book of poems. And the poem itself is Ithaca, Ithaka, that changed my life, actually. I was a young woman reading that thing, and I went, okay. Because the message is it's not arriving that's relevant. That may have set you out on your destination. So Ithaca is from Odysseus. This is where he comes from, and after the war in Troy, he had quite an event trying to get home. So the Odyssey. So it's about Odysseus, and it's really not about the getting home, because home is going to be there, and you might find it poor and etc. But the essence of that poem is that you grow rich with all that you find along the way, and all the places that you've gone, and all the things that you've seen and encountered all the way. It's the voyage is what it is. So that was deeply moving for me. So there is one. It always has been. So it's Steve Winwood's High Life. Okay. I don't know if you know it, but my heart soars every time I hear it, and I'm ready to go. So it's the song for me to get on the road and start. It's a reminder to not stay still because of the joy that's out there. It's in others, because what I do always in all of my roles is at service to others, right? And so when they're successful, that's it. That's success. All those years working with international aid agencies is a very weird job. And when people see your resume, they look at you and, what is this? Every 2 years, you're going somewhere else and you're doing something else. And most people would consider that an instability, but in fact, that's a measure of success, because they say the part of it that's a weird job is that you're in the process of training other people, so you make yourself unemployed. They replace you. That to me is the measure of success. I walk away and I know they're fine. And that's success. There it is.